Welcome to Living and Leading from the Core in beautiful Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. This is Connie Clark, and today I'm going to be talking to Ken Bohenick. How'd I do on your name?
Perfect.
And he is a business broker with Murphy Business and Finance, and that's what you guys do. You help people sell their companies, correct? And you know, when I first started my business, my coach said to me, okay, what's your exit strategy?
Right.
And I thought, what are you talking about, exit strategy? I'm starting this business, and you're already talking to me about leaving it? And now that I've been in this for a number of years, a lot of people have said, what's your exit strategy? And you don't even think about that. But from what I've been looking at, you really should start thinking about it from day one.
It literally should be part of your business plan just in the beginning as to how you will, because everybody has to exit their business at some point.
So you kind of get yourself set up to leave and plan for that. How would you do that?
Part of that is well, a number of different things. But knowing in the beginning when you're setting up your business as how it benefits you when you have expenses to pay, if you do take any personal expenses, why it benefits you to take a salary and show those on your P&L, so that way when it comes time to sell, that you have the added value. Because what we're looking at is not only what does the business net, but what does the business have in terms of true cash flow, and how we attain that is by any discretionary income numbers or expenses that the business owner chooses to take.
So it's more along the lines of, okay, me coming to want to buy this business, what am I going to get out of it?
Everybody wants to be able to. Well, I shouldn't say everybody, but every business owner goes into it with the idea that they want to, steer their own ship, be in charge of their own destiny. But the best way to be in charge of that destiny is to be planning ahead, because at some point you are going to want to, everybody wants to be profitable, and everybody wants to be able to get a return on that investment of what they're doing, whether they are a startup or they're buying an existing business. They want to be able to, pay their bills, pay themselves, and also love what they're doing. So, in doing that, a lot of times most business owners, unfortunately, don't capitalize on. They're so pulled down by the day-to-day work, what they're doing, and trying to maintain their bills and pay their employees and do everything, that they many times forego themselves, which is very common. Even myself, because I've owned businesses before as well, I've been victim to the same. But when you choose, if you haven't put in place an exit strategy from the beginning, which many times most people don't, then the next best thing is knowing on the horizon that day is coming, and maybe 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years before that day, you say, okay, what do I need to do to begin to streamline this business to make it sellable and put the most money back in my pocket when I finally sell the business. And
there's things you can do to set up your taxes so that looks profitable, what your bottom line says so that looks profitable, and you're setting all that up. Even like you said, 5 years from now, you've got a history of making the profits and going in the right tax categories and everything, and makes it easy for someone to look at to go, yeah, I want this.
Correct. So one of the little known secrets is, everybody that goes into business knows, well, I need to have a good bookkeeper, I need to have a good CPA, I need to have potentially a good attorney to review documents and such. Another professional that most business owners don't consider is a business broker. We don't just look at you when you're ready to sell, but when you're preparing to sell, or when you're thinking that someday you're going to sell. So that's part of the exit strategy. And part of that is, most people, the number one thing when I meet with a new client who's looking to sell their business is, I have no idea what it's worth. Okay, so that takes us back to one of the services that we provide. Murphy Business and Financial. Not only are our number one specialty is selling businesses, but we have a number of other services that we provide at the corporate level. We have a number of top quality appraisers, so we can do machinery and equipment appraisals. We do valuations for banks all the time for SBA loans, but at the local level. So for myself personally, is we do what's called a broker's opinion of value. So that is a 18 to 20 page report that is generated based off of your financials to find out what the business is worth. We utilize three to four pricing methods in that, so it's similar in structure to an actual full appraisal that would cost you $2,000 and above. But what that does for somebody who is thinking about selling is even if they're not ready at that point to sell their business, that's the benchmark data that's required to know what is my company worth today, how profitable am I truly, and where is it that I'm trying to reach by the time that I'm ready to sell. Those are some of the steps to take for that exit strategy.
So when someone contacts you and says, okay, I'm ready to sell my business, the first thing you do is do the valuation, correct?
Well, the first thing that I do is have a consultation with that individual, find out find out, number one, about their business, what it is that they do, and find out everything about their business that I can just from that initial meeting. And then, we switch roles. Then they want to know a little bit about how I can help them. So, and those initial consultations are important because we're going to be tied together for a certain amount of time, and so it's important to know that our relationships work, because this is very relationship based, and it's not just dollars and cents. At least it isn't to me, but we need to work together to reach the same goal. My goal is to help you sell your business, and so I need to know as much as I can about your business right from the beginning, and then because for me the fees and what we charge in business is secondary to, can I help this individual reach their own goal?
So you get all of that ready, and then you start advertising, correct?
Once we have met and we decided to go forward, then I do the pricing, and so then I'll go through the what we just call simply the BOV. So I then have to gather up a lot of information, anywhere from 3 to 5 years of tax returns, P&Ls, balance sheets. That just gets me started, because then there are a list of I have to drill down into those numbers and find out what kind of discretionary expenses exist in the business and not every business owner is different. Some people run everything through their business. Some people don't run anything through their business. And so we need to drill down on those numbers to find out exactly how much true cash flow is in the business. Once I've done that and then prepared all the methodologies that go into the pricing of the business, then what we'll do is meet again, go over that. If we choose to list it, then we go into a formal listing agreement, and then it becomes marketable.
And so do you find out pricing methods and employees' pay mm-hmm. and assets and all those kinds of mm-hmm. things? Mm-hmm. So you gather every single little drop of information you can on that business.
Yes. And then as we go forward, there's always more, because you can't just think of everything, in the first couple of weeks of doing that work together. So it's a continued learning process. If there's questions that I don't come up with, a buyer will typically find one, and then we learn more. And we just continue to compile that data. And one of the other things that I do is we have usually offering packages of different sizes for buyers, so that they can get the basic information to find out if that's a fit for them. And so once the business is listed, our business listings are all ambiguous. We never divulge who's for sale. Yeah,
because you really don't. If you're going to sell your business, you don't want everybody to know that.
A lot of business owners, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of business owners don't understand how important it is to maintain confidentiality. it's important not only for the seller, but also for the buyer, and also vendors, customers, employees. If you want to look at what your most important asset is in your business, it's really your employees. And if the employees feel that there's an uncertainty, uncertainty is really what drives a lot of people away. They don't know. Most sellers want to say, "Hey, I've got great employees. I don't want to lose them." Well, providing that uncertainty is a certain way for those employees to possibly exit before the business actually sells. So the very first thing that I do when I am approached by a buyer, when somebody contacts me, the very first thing is I send them a non-disclosure agreement, and I begin my pre-qualification process right then and there. That weeds out the tire kickers immediately, because most people just want to know who the business is, but they may not be a serious buyer. That's the first part of the process. Then once I have a buyer who's returned non-disclosure, then the next is finding out about the buyer. Are they financially capable? Is this a good fit? And then share some information. But I don't share tax returns or anything like that in the beginning. There's certain financial information that every buyer wants, and they receive that, and I give them enough information at a time to find out, is this the right fit for them? Are they pleased with what they're seeing? And it's just continued steps throughout the process.
Are they appropriate to buy that business?
Exactly. Yep.
Now, you said you advised the business owner not to tell their employees. Well, what about employee ownership?
Well, that gets kind of tricky sometimes. There are employees out there that definitely are capable of taking over. If that is a case, because that is something that usually gets brought up in an initial consultation, is do you have management in place? Yes. Have they ever expressed interest in purchasing the business? Yes. Do you think that they're financially capable of doing it? Because that's where it really kind of comes down to. And most employers that are listening to this will probably be nodding their heads, because there are a lot of employees who would love to own a business, but not a lot of them that are capable of owning the business for a number of reasons. But because the seller knows his staff, he or she is going to know from the beginning, I've got this particular individual who would be perfect. They are financially sound, and I think that then that might be who we go and talk to.
So then you would go ahead and tell that person what's going on.
They would then also be held to the same confidentiality and are treated like any other buyer, because it's the same thing. We need to make certain that individual is going to respect the confidentiality agreement and protect the seller's interest for selling if for some reason that deal goes sideways and that individual isn't able to buy it. It could be a very sensitive and delicate issue, so really want to make certain in a situation like that that particular individual is the right fit. And very well could be.
And that's probably the easiest way to do it.
It can be, yeah, because the customers, vendors, and whatnot, the relationship and rapport with that particular employee are already in place, and it certainly can be a smoother transition. It just doesn't happen very often.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Interesting, because I would think if you worked for a company you really, really liked, mm-hmm. and now they were going to sell it, and you see it's making a profit. Mm-hmm. But I guess some people aren't business owner material. Some people
are definitely. It's up to the individual, because not everybody can sit behind the desk and lead the team and take on because as a seller, as a business owner, you wear many hats and you have a lot of responsibilities, and it's a lot of hours that you put in. And sometimes employees don't see that. They only see the perks of the business owner, and they don't see the times that you're burning the lights at late at night,
up in the middle of the night, thinking of things. Yes.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of rewards in being a business owner, but there's also a lot of risk involved, and so sometimes employees are just really more comfortable being able to be done at 5 and go home, spend time with their families, do their thing, and they don't have to worry about those other headaches that the rest of us have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Now, what happens if you see a competitor show interest in that business? They don't know who it is. They just know it's
another great question, because one of the best ways to grow your business is to acquire another one. It's the fastest way to do it. So if you're aggressively growing and you're a business owner who's looking to grow aggressively, one of the best ways is to acquire your competition.
Really?
Oh yeah, because you can spend a lot of money in marketing and advertising, and you can get more customers faster by going and buying your competition and taking on their customer base.
Interesting. And that happens a lot? That
does happen. Absolutely. So many times I might have a listing where I get a inquiry from somebody who is in that same space. Again, very, very delicate. Very delicate.
Because you don't want them to take that information and use it against
Correct.
The business.
Yes.
Now, what happens if they do?
Well, if somebody breaches the confidentiality agreement while the business is still listed, it can wind up in court. Absolutely. So it's confidentiality agreements are pretty serious and binding. I mean, if it's proven that it is been breached, it's not a place you want to be.
Yeah, no, that's
that's the whole idea. If they weren't important and they weren't sticky in nature, we wouldn't use them. We wouldn't have to. But we take it very seriously, and I take it very serious. Our company does, and sellers, most of them take it very seriously. They want to make sure that they're not being overexposed, and jeopardizing their business while they're still, because the whole idea of hiring a broker is that most sellers don't have the time or the wherewithal or the marketing insight as to how to even go about doing it. Their number one job is to continue doing their job, running their business, and then that's why we come into play. You keep doing what you're doing while we are helping you sell your business, because it's too difficult for a seller to find the time to market the business, pre-qualify buyers, and do all the things that need to be done in order for that business to get sold. Some do it. Some have done it more than once, or some have done it once and they say, I never want to do it again. And so they see the value in having somebody come in that is going to be able to get their business sold for them and take that job.
Because I've seen, like on Craigslist, businesses for sale, and I think, now wait a minute. You've got yourself out there, you've got your phone number, you've got your information. Your customers can see that. Now, are they going to do business with someone who's going to be gone in a month? Mm-hmm. Probably not.
It's very difficult because unfortunately a lot of people think that because a business is selling that there's something wrong. And that's not always the case. People throughout their life, their goals, their desires change. You can buy a business, you can have a plan or not have a plan, and in 10 years are ready for a change. The business could be growing by leaps and bounds. It could be very, very profitable. The reason that the seller wants to sell isn't because the business is failing. It's because they want to change. They want something,
do something else,
something different. And that's everybody's right. Everybody who owns a business, they have every right to be able to sell it whenever they want to. Just like a home, a car, or anything else. Businesses are very important because while so many people fixate on homes and say, well, this is your largest investment. Well, how do you pay for that investment? Well, if you're a business owner, your business makes that mortgage payment, puts your kids through college, provides the income for your family, and so it's, to me, that's the number one thing to be focused on. And most people get very tied up into their real estate instead of realizing that they wouldn't have what they've had. They wouldn't have what they have if it wasn't for their business. And most people know what their home is worth, yet they don't know what their business is worth.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's a little bit funny when you think about it that way.
Interesting. Now, what if someone comes to you saying, I've got to sell this business, I'm struggling. Can you help them make that business profitable so that it will look good?
We do. We do. Consulting as well. So just like other business coaches that are out there that offer consultation services, we do as well. And we typically do that on an hourly basis or case by case, really. So if somebody did come to me and they said, I'm struggling with this. I don't know what my business is worth, and we look at it and come up with a price, and then we can provide some of that additional information as to, well, do you really need 12 employees? Maybe 10. You have a lot of money going out this way, and try to guide them a little bit better if they're really not ready to sell yet, but they're trying to turn some of that profitability around. We do offer that as well.
Because no one wants to buy a business that's not profitable.
Right. Although there are people out there who do. I mean, there are people out there who are looking for just like a house to flip. Maybe
asset purchases.
Maybe exactly. Maybe not even a business to flip per se, but sometimes people are do-it-yourselfers and they say, I'd like to find a business because I can get in. Maybe a business that's not doing so well that I can get in. I can turn it around and make it profitable because they know that they can get in there under what the business is worth, and then then they're able to build that equity in the business. Much the same as a house that has a lot of deferred maintenance, and somebody who knows they could do a lot of it through sweat equity. Hey, I can get this house. I can remodel it. I could do this because I could do most of it myself. And then I've got a really nice asset of my own, or I can turn around in a couple of years and sell it, And
are there a lot of people that do that? Because you see flip this house and all that kind of stuff on TV shows, but not necessarily businesses.
No, but there are people out there. I mean, we get approached once in a while, but they're a special breed of person because most people want to be able to. They're looking for a profitable business. They have certain parameters as a buyer that they want, and that's what they're looking for. There are asset sales, so there are liquidation sales. We do those from time to time, and there are specific buyers who are just looking for that so that they can turn that business around and make it profitable. And yeah,
we've seen a lot of that. I know in the political realm, I've seen them talking about it, where these people will come in, and it just recently happened to a business that's here locally, where they'll come in and the business has filed bankruptcy or something like that. They come in and buy at bottom line prices and sell all the assets and make all kinds of money because they just bought the assets, basically.
Right, and there are companies out there that specialize in that. I mean, that's not I wouldn't say our specialty is helping business owners sell their business that are already profitable. We do liquidations once in a while, or if we have a business owner that has a lot of assets and they say, look, can we just list this as an asset sale and see if we can attract interest that way? Yes. There are companies who just strictly do liquidation of assets, and some of my colleagues may get into that. I personally don't get into it that often, so I may just group one business that they have a certain amount of assets and they want to sell all of it, and we'll maybe price that business off the value of the assets more so than the cash flow.
Now, in looking at some of the information I pulled off your website, is it better for a business to not have any outstanding loans out there that they're paying on, or is it better for business to owe money to the SBA?
Well, it really won't matter because those liabilities that particular liability won't transfer to the buyer. So that's where it comes down to, does this make sense to sell at this point in time? If the business is profitable and the business has debt, is the business owner going to be able to sell the business, pay off whatever liabilities need to be paid off, pay his broker and any other fees that are associated, maybe CPA and whatnot, and leave him some money in his pocket?
So if you have any debt, that stays with the seller even after someone else buys the business.
Unless there's some strange reason that the buyer would assume those liabilities. Liabilities are typically cleared up by the seller once the business sells.
Now, what about if there's outstanding accounts receivable?
Well, depending on the closing date, then those are we will structure that accordingly for who gets what. If it's a service-based business where jobs have begun prior to closing and are going to be collected on after closing, that money would typically go back to the seller.
Oh, okay.
And then any jobs that had started post closing, then by the buyer would then be the buyer.
Oh, okay.
So you've got that period of time where there's a bit of a balance.
Yeah, who gets what kind of thing?
Yes, but we all the way down. Same thing with any business carries a lot of inventory that turns over, retail businesses and whatnot. We will try. Our goal is to, even on the day of closing, if it takes the day of closing to count inventory and know exactly where you stand, so that if there's any other last-minute adjustments they're made there, to keep things as accurate as possible. Most of the time, as buyer and seller, because again, getting back to the relationship aspect of this, you can have a buyer and a seller, or a buyer that is the right fit for the business in every way, but personalities don't gel. And it's going to be very difficult to get that business all the way to that point of closing. But when the buyer and the seller really like each other and are working together, it makes it that much easier getting through this period of time all the way down to closing, to be able to do things like last minute inventory counts and whatnot, and making sure that it's fair for both parties and everybody is on the same page. So,
when do you bring the employees in and let them know when the closing happens, or before? I mean, hey, guess what, guys? I sold the business today. I mean,
yeah, and that's usually case by case. Typically, as you get close to closing, and you might involve key employees that need to know. The majority of the employees, typically, I've always recommended that the employees know after close, because in this business, nothing is for sure, and deals do come undone even at the closing table. So, if you've already disclosed the sale to all your staff, and then for some reason the deal doesn't go through,
they now know you're selling the business.
So then we're back to what we were talking about prior to confidentiality. Now your employees know, and most employees will continue to tell other people that it's for sale. So I still am a big advocate for waiting until after closing to make the introductions and whatnot. And at the end of the day, if the seller decides otherwise, I can only advise. And if something were to happen, then we have to deal with that next.
Now, the buyer coming in, do they come in after hours to take a look at the business?
Everything that we do is, again, all based on confidentiality. So if we have to do a walkthrough and it's possible to do it during the day, then yes, it's on an evening during the week, or it's on a weekend when the place is closed down. But yes, our time can be spent a lot of times evenings and weekends on walkthroughs. Certain businesses, if you have a commercial retail space, we won't do an actual walkthrough, but I might suggest to a buyer, just
pretend you're a customer.
Exactly, and you can't keep somebody from walking into a business. So just you just ask, respectfully, just be a customer, go check it out, see what you think, and let me know, and then we could do a more formal sit down. So there's that.
Now, if someone were thinking of possibly selling their business, tell me what kind of advice you would give them.
If they're thinking about selling their business, the very first thing that I would say is call a broker.
Oh, I should have known you were going to say that.
Have your finances in order. Make sure that your tax returns are done and up to date. If you don't know how to use your bookkeeping software, then have your bookkeeper get everything ready. That one of the challenges that I've come across every once in a while is when I say these are the documents that I'm going to need. A lot of times they're very similar to what you would have to provide a bank or another professional anyhow, so they should be at your fingertips. And it's amazing to me the amount of business owners that can't get their fingers on current financials or even know what some of them are. So maybe even if you're really not that hands-on with your books, maybe taking a couple of classes to understand, or meeting with whether it's a broker or a business coach or somebody that can kind of enlighten you a little bit more as to what all this really means, or how to get those and be able to provide those when they're needed.
Yeah, I've talked to people who their business is in a shoebox. All the receipts are sitting there, and they come tax time, they just hand the shoebox to their accountant, and I think, how can you do that? Now, when you look at their financials, as an example, their P&L, do you look at their margins and compare it to the industry margins, or you don't get down that?
We will get in. No, we definitely do. I mean, that's part of it in that valuation process. Is one of those methods is the market method. So we will compare those by, and on those, we're really relying on closed data from other business sales. The more information that's out there, that's like for us, when we sell a business, we have a whole, our work isn't done just a minute that the checks are written. We still have more work that needs to be processed, and part of that is submitting a closed data form that we have internally. Because we, as who our firm is, being the largest, most successful brokerage firm in the country, we want to make sure that on every deal that we're doing, we're getting all the information that we can uploaded into the system for the benefit of not only us, but all other brokers who have to do this, because we're relying on that other market information to be able to accurately price businesses. That's one of those.
So
methods.
You're using businesses that have sold?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so while in one particular industry, we have a range of revenues, cash flows, and whatnot. So we'll have a pull-down form and to find other businesses that have sold under the same sort of parameters as this particular one that we're looking at, to be able to. It's basically what the MLS is for pulling down comps on homes is very similar for businesses. I mean, it's biz comps. I mean, that's what it is that we're looking at for market report. That's one of the areas. So it's very important.
Yeah, like I said, I've talked to business owners, and they do not understand their financial documents, and I didn't understand mine for a number of years, but it really tells you a lot. It tells you your different segments and which ones are profitable and which ones are not. Can you help them figure those out?
Absolutely.
Because when I did mine initially, there was a whole segment that was very unprofitable that I got rid of. And it improved my company. But a lot of people don't know how to do that.
Yeah, and not only that, but then you combine that with your accountant. Because your accountant is also, he or she knows that the business owner's main goal is to try to minimize as much tax as they can each year. So each year, the business owner is working with their CPA to strategize that, or they should be, and so you can combine that with another business professional or two so whether it's your CPA, business broker, maybe also a business coach, collectively working to streamline the business to its maximum efficiency, which fattens up that bottom line, and going forward is what's going to be beneficial when you ultimately want to sell the business.
And when you said fatten up that bottom line, I know there's a theory that you don't want your bottom line, your net profit, to be very big, so you don't have to pay tax on it. But then when you're going to sell it, you want it to be big so that it looks. So where do you fall in between?
Well, because salary that is income to the business owner that is hitting the P&L can be added back along with the payroll taxes that business owner is taking. So the amount that it benefits the business when you calculate it out on the valuation and the cash flow that it will see plus the net of the business that it's making actually far outweighs the excess tax that most business owners say, well, if I pay myself and I have to report that W-2 earning, I'm going to have to pay those taxes. Well, it's added back in. And it's going to add more to the value of the company when you go to sell it. So if a business owner chooses to take very little on their salary or none at all, and nothing's hitting that P&L, but they're taking draws out, well, I can show that to a buyer, but it's hitting the balance sheet instead of hitting the P&L. It can't be added back. So it's very beneficial and that's why if you're thinking about selling a few years down the road, you need to start taking a salary. And that's really important. That's not to say that I haven't sold businesses where the business owner wasn't, but there was usually enough income in the business that it justified it. But most buyers want to be able to see that the business is profitable and pays a salary to the owner and has enough cash flow to support the debt service. Those are the key things that are really make a buyer attracted to a particular business, because it's meeting those certain parameters. Now the difference comes in when you have a smaller job or smaller business where a buyer is essentially buying a job. So I've
seen that happen a lot.
Exactly. So sometimes you got an employee that says, I'm tired of being an employee working for somebody else. I don't necessarily need to make a huge investment each year, but I want to be able to do what I want to do. And so sometimes those smaller businesses that are for sale, they don't really support the same kind of cash flow numbers that would be attractive to somebody who's looking at a business as an investment, but is more attractive to the buyer who says, I want to steer the ship, I want to be in charge of my own destiny. That's going to give me the satisfaction that I'm looking for. They're buying themselves a job then when they're buying that small business.
So then you've got two different types of buyers. One that it's just an investment, and the other that I want a job.
Yes. So you have strategic buyers is typically what I'll call like an investment buyer. They're looking at for strategic purposes. They're not really looking to maybe grind it out day in and day out. They've got management in place, key people in place, and they're going to oversee that. But it's more of an investment opportunity for them, that they can take their money and expand their portfolio. If they've got investments in a number of different areas, this is just another way to tap into expand their portfolio. Versus somebody else who says, I want to be a business owner. I want to work 50 to 60 hours a week, and this is what I want to be able to do. So, there's absolutely two different kinds of buyers in the marketplace.
Okay. Well, Ken, if someone wanted more information or wanted to get in contact with you or was thinking of selling their business and didn't even know where to start, how could they get a hold of you?
We're online at murphybusiness.com. And
MURPHY.
MURPHY. Murphy. And that's our main site. And then murphybusiness.com/Sandpoint will bring up our personal page with myself and Kevin Nepper, who is a colleague of mine here in North Idaho, and has all our contact information on there to reach us via email.
And there's lots of information. I pulled a bunch of information off this morning that's on there, things I hadn't even considered, thought about, and even like we talked in the beginning, if you're starting a business, you need to start thinking about it.
We have restructured our website. The main murphybusiness.com website has been the entire website and everything, without going into full detail. We've restructured everything. One of the things that we've done is we've taken the Murphy Business site and we're making it more adaptable to buyers who are looking for businesses, whether it's in this area or a different area, to be able to enter themselves as a buyer, to be able to get and they can do that also with me. If somebody that is looking for a business isn't specific to the Idaho market, I can enter that, but they've contacted me here. They say, I'm okay with North Idaho, Eastern Washington, Western Montana. Well, I've got colleagues all over in the area. We all work together collectively. I can enter that particular buyer into the system for certain parameters that they're looking for. And if something populates with Peggy Craig in Whitefish, Montana, of a listing that she has, that particular buyer, we can work, because we co-broke a lot as well. So if I end up having a buyer that's looking for something in Western Montana and Peggy has a listing, then we're going to work together for the seller and the buyer's benefit.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Ken. Like I said, I know It's not something you want to think about, but you really need to structure your business and how you do business so that when you do want to retire, do want to do something different, do want to pass it on, that you're ready and you're not going, oh my gosh, now what do I do, when you have to totally change everything and how you work. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. And again, this has been Living and Leading from the Core in beautiful Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Connie Clark here, and I hope you have a wonderful day.